Okay, we're going to call to order the South Florida Water Management District's monthly governing board meeting. It's August 14th, 2025, and we'll start as we always start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like Ben Butler to lead the audience in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Ben. A few housekeeping items before we start. Good morning, board members. It's nice to see you here. Mr. Steinle is not able to join us today, and I believe Chairman Goss, Mr. Martinez, Colonel Roman, and Mr. Spotswood are participating remotely. Can you guys confirm that you can hear us and we can hear you?
Hey, this is Chauncey. I can hear you.
Great. Good to hear you, Chairman. Mr. Martinez?
Good morning. This is Robert Spotswood. I can hear you.
Okay.
I am here, Mr. Vice Chair.
Great.
Yeah, this is Charlotte. Good morning.
Okay, wonderful. We can hear all of you. For those board members who are here, I'm going to ask that you make sure your microphone is on and that you speak into the mic so the online attendees can hear you. If you turn your head while you're speaking, Bergeron, drag the mic with you so we can make sure your comments are captured. And please try to get as close to the mic as possible. For the board members who are on Zoom, I can't see you when you raise your hand, so if you want to speak or ask questions, please call out your name and I will acknowledge you to speak. Members of the public on Zoom who wish to address the board may use the raise hand feature. If members of the public are having any trouble and need help, please go to our website, sfwmd.gov, and click the Ask Us button at the bottom of the page, top of the page, and staff will assist you. If you're using a phone and would like to comment, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute. As a courtesy to others who wish to speak, members of the public are asked to comment only once on a topic. We will take public comment first from those that are here in person and submitted a comment card, followed by those with raised hands on Zoom. Let's move on to my favorite part of the meeting, our employee recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Got a few of them today. Our August 2025 Employee of the Month is John Creswell. He's the Chief Engineer of Construction at our Fort Myers Service Center for the C-43 project. Of course, John would submit that picture. Most of us on the board know Mr. Creswell for his work out of the C-43 project, which is why he's getting recognized today. What most of you don't know is why he was put in charge of running the C-43 project is because it comes with a lot of credentials. He has 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree in this effort. While one of them is from the University of Florida, the other ones are from Florida Atlantic University and University of Connecticut. Catch what I did there, Ben? Okay. He is a practicing structural engineer for 40 years. He's a professional engineer licensed in 10 states, including Florida, and he's a Florida certified general contractor for more than 20 years. So he was the right man for the job, and it was a very big job. This is an above-ground reservoir on 10,000 acres, 17 miles of dam. It's the second largest dam constructed in America, the first being the Herbert Hoover Dike. It has many structures around it. We had to reroute canals, get water supply for the neighbors, provide flood control for the neighbors, many structures to let the water out, pump station let it in. It's a lot of moving parts, seepage collection, seepage walls, that he was watching. And then, of course, we had to pivot midway through because we needed to get back on schedule. And that's when we had John Creswell basically take over as general contractor for this. He led a consulting team of 40 personnel, numerous contractors who brought about 400 employees to the site and managed 130 different purchase orders to get all those moving parts and pieces together for this reservoir. And then about 3 weeks ago, we cut a ribbon with the governor and with a lot of dignitaries out there that are very excited about this reservoir, which would not have happened if it weren't for the efforts of John Creswell, and that's why he's our August Employee of the Month. Thank you, John. Our August 2025 Team of the Month is our Habitat Restoration on Lake Okeechobee team, which consists of Tadis Adiagbo, Michael Baranski, Kenneth Balzer, Michael Katina, Jennifer Chestant, Samantha Colios, Paul Jones, Daniel Marchio, Portia Monsanto, Stacy Ollis, and Jacob Thayer. So we had very successful recovery operations at the Corps implemented for Lake Okeechobee, which worked to a T, got the lake down to where it needed to be. And when the lake comes down like that, we look for opportunities for habitat restoration. And it's all has to be done on the fly because you don't know whether the lake will set up to make that happen and facilitate that. So FWC had an effort. They were thinking about planting and fish eating bay, which is in Lake Okeechobee, and getting that effort together. And this team said, hey, we can make this even better. We can partner with FWC and make this even better. And that's a last minute decision, right? So they had to get the purchase orders, get the planning, get the paperwork, and this all came from both the Veg Management section, the Everglades and Estuaries Protection Bureau, and the Applied Sciences Bureau, where they came together, got more plants, got more teams, got more effort, made arrangements for their day jobs to get out there and plant an additional 20,000 emergent plants in this area of Fish Eating Bay, which is in Lake Okeechobee. Altogether, 400 trees, 1,000 submerged aquatic vegetation plants, and 30,000 bulrush and Kissimmee grass was planted in Fish Eating Bay to get that habitat jump-started, to get it in the lake, because the lake is better overall. Better bass fishery, better ecosystem, if you get these things started when the lake is low. They mobilized, they got it done, and that's why they're our August employee Team of the Month. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah. Thank you. Congratulations.
All right, Mr. Chair, we've got a 35-year service award for Julie Russell, paralegal specialist, Office of Counsel. So, Julie came to us 35 years ago, obviously, and she has been involved in so much stuff over at the Office of Counsel. She came when, Steve Walker was the general counsel here at the district, and he was hiring what was called at the time legal research assistants in the 80s and 90s, back when we had a lot of legal activity ticking up. And so Julie came in and helped out with all the research. And because she's been here so long, she's gotten involved in so many different things at the district. And she has that experience now where you can say, Julie, can you go do this? And she's like, got it, and it's done. But she's actually worked in so many different areas. Regulatory enforcement, eminent domain, and emergency management. She's drafted paralegal pleadings, discovery motions, aided during depositions, mediations, trials, and hearings. She's gotten involved in regulatory enforcement, right-of-way enforcement, right-of-way permit withdrawals, you hear it's across the district. Everything that we do across the district, she's been involved in. And she's the go-to person when it comes to drafting emergency orders for us. And that's always like, we need them, we need them, we need them. And we get them right away, and it's because Julie's efforts. In fact, she's been, some pretty notable emergency orders she's drafted. In 1992, Hurricane Andrew. In 1996, the Value Jet crash. Did I mention she's been here for 35 years? Yes. It is great to have her around. She is also very active in our district employee committee, which basically helps us with our holiday parties, but really mostly with fundraising at the district, where she contributes baked goods. And you've all participated in our bake sales before board meetings. That's one of her passions. She's very good at it, and you've probably had her cake pops. That's what she's famous for. But when she's not learning more about cooking, she's spending time with her twin boys and her 5 grandchildren, which sounds wonderful. Julie, thanks so much for your 35 years of service. More cowbell. All right. We have a Good Samaritan Award this time around for Steve Mazzaros and Brandon Collier, who were both separately driving out in rural Central Florida when they came across an injured woman. And she was not well off, and they both stopped independently, made sure that she was safe because it was out on the road, parked their trucks, rendered aid. She was in shock, and they basically kept her safe, right? Called 911, tended to her wounds, helped her with, her emotions and all that kind of stuff. And they didn't have to stop, right? And this is what we want. This is what we embody in the South Florida Water Management District. We're public servants. We're here to serve. And these two came across a situation, and they didn't hesitate to help. She's okay. The ambulance came. She was taken off. And I don't know what would have happened if they didn't stop. And so, we really wanted to thank them for taking the time. I know they had other things to do, but they stopped and they helped, and that's why they are getting our Good Samaritan Award today. Thank you, Brandon and Anthony.
Mr. Chair, we're so blessed to have such great employees. Boy, we have quite a team that's making sure that South Florida has drinking water, flood protection, and a quality of life with our environment. And we are so blessed to have such a great team of people. I know I say that, but it's so important because we have such a great mission on our plate.
Tremendous staff. We have tremendous staff and employees here. Now's the time in the meeting where we call on agenda revisions. Molly, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman. The contract information for consent agenda item number 18 was added.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We're also going to ask for abstentions, item abstentions by board members, and I'm going to poll the board members for any abstentions. Mr. Bergeron,
Have none.
Mr. Butler,
I have none, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Hurley,
No abstentions.
Chairman Goss.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain from item 15, which is dealing with the Crew Watershed. I'm on the board of the Crew Watershed. I have no financial interest in it, but out of an abundance of caution, I am going to abstain from that.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez,
None.
Colonel Roman,
None.
Mr. Spotswood,
None.
and I have none. We're going to consider the approval of the minutes for the July 10th, 2025 meeting. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes for the July 10th meeting?
Just a comment real quick, Mr. Chair. In it, I said judicial, I meant judicious, but I'm not asking it to be changed because of what I said. So I just want that on the record. And with that, I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay. Mr.
second
Butler's moved. Mr. Bergeron has second to approve the minutes for the July 10th meeting. We'll call the question to order. Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Hurley,
Yes.
Chairman Goss,
Yes.
Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Colonel Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Spotswood,
Yes.
and I vote yes. It carries unanimously. The approval for the minutes of the July 10th, 2025 meeting. Now's the time we'll ask Drew Bartlett to give his executive director's report, and he's at the dais already.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I would like to welcome our new Lieutenant Governor, Jay Collins, who was appointed this week by the governor. He's from the Tampa area, and I just wanted to, from the South Florida Water Management District, congratulate him for his appointment. We worked well with Jeanette Nunez, the former Lieutenant Governor, and we look forward to working with Lieutenant Governor Collins as he takes office. What I wanted to share with you is we did have a reorganization at the South Florida Water Management District. I briefed the board last time on how we were balancing the budget, and part of that was some streamlining in the management ranks that we implemented right after that board meeting. So this is at the top, and so when we look at streamlining, it's not just, it's throughout the entire organization from the top on down. And this is the new organization that works for me. What used to be there is a Chief of Communications and Public Engagement, where Jill Margolius and Libby Pigman and their organizations worked for that position. That position's been vacant for a little while, and they've really honestly stepped up and shown leadership independent of that position. So we decided to go ahead and move them under the Chief of Staff and streamline the management ranks reporting straight to me. Secondarily, next slide, there was some reorganization within John Mitnick's part of the organization. This is the new organization. Basically, the Division of Water Resources, which was led by Lawrence Glenn, it had 3 bureaus. One was the Applied Sciences Bureau that Cassandra supervises. So what she does a lot of is the Recover, the SERP, looking at all the sciences related to our restoration efforts. So we thought that bureau might be better suited in our planning, our ecosystem restoration division, where they can work more seamlessly with the planning folks and really understand have that seamless communication as we implement our restoration projects. The other was at the Office of Water Quality. It was the Bureau of Water Quality, which is where our lab is, and they do all of the services throughout the organization on the water quality efforts, led by Stuart Van Horn. What we've done is created an Office of Water Quality reporting to John that will service all of John's programs, essentially, through lab support. And then the last one was the Water Supply Bureau, which was headed by Mark Elsner. And what we thought was very synergistic was creating a division of flood control and water supply planning. So it's a lot of the water management. It's outside of ecosystem. It's how you do flood control and how that couples with water supply planning. Because usually when you're doing flood control, you're losing your water. But there's the intersection with sea level rise and saltwater intrusion, And so we wanted to create a division because this is growing. As we adapt our flood control system, we want to couple it with the planning efforts on water supply and get all those planning efforts in one division. That division is going to be headed by Dr. Carolina Moran, because as you've experienced her efforts in the flood control planning, and now we're going to introduce the water supply planning and get some synergies there. So that's the basic reorganization, and you know, so I think that is a better streamlined organization that we wanted to implement, but now you know about it and the public. Speaking of Dr. Carolina Moran, I wanted to let you know that she was just awarded the Outstanding Technical Achievement Award from the Florida Engineering Society. So this is a statewide society that recognizes the accomplishments of engineers within the state of Florida, and they just last August 1st recognized her with a statewide award of the Outstanding Technical Achievement. We've all seen what she's done with flood protection and our resiliency programs and advancing all the sciences and metrics with respect to making sure we can sustain South Florida in the future, and I was very proud of her. She's sitting right here. But that was a great achievement for Dr. Moran. Okay. The winners for the Python Challenge were just announced yesterday at the FWC meeting, but what I really wanted to say is that 294 pythons were removed from the Everglades in our South Florida ecosystem with this Python Challenge, which is, I've heard, about 100 more than last year. That brings our total to over 16,000 pythons. Pile that in this room, that's a lot of pythons, right? So it's pretty exciting to see that kind of engagement when it comes to that kind of problem with our Python issue. On the discussion today, I will be talking about the governor's efforts to accelerate the EAA reservoir and bring more acceleration and energy, even more around SERP through some recent historic agreements. You might notice that John Mitnick is not here today. That is because he is busy implementing that initiative right now in a meeting that he could not miss. And I said, no, that's your priority. Go do that. So I'll cover that more in discussion, Mr. Chair, but that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. We're going to move on to general public comment. We now move into our first public comment period. If you are here to comment on a specific agenda item, we would ask that you hold your comment until we reach that item on our agenda. This comment period is for general comments not related to agenda items, and I really appreciate everyone's help in running an efficient meeting. Public comment for consent agenda items is item 11 on the agenda, and public comment for discussion agenda item 21 will be heard after the presentation. The public had an opportunity to provide written comments prior to this meeting, and as far as I know, we did not receive any e-comments. Molly, is there any general public comment at this time?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman, we do have general public comment. We'll begin with Stephen Basori, followed by Gil Smart.
Good morning. Thank you for your time today. My name is Stephen Basor, and I'm here today on behalf of my family's farm, TKM Bengard Farms. Normally I'm dressed in jeans and boots, so I'm a little out of character today. I'm here to especially thank you all for recognizing the farmers in our Glades community for our stewardship of the land and water. For my family, that recognition means a great deal. We are a fourth generation family farm, and today we grow, pack, and ship over 15 varieties of lettuce and leafy greens. Our produce is harvested on over 8,000 acres in the Everglades agricultural area during the winter season. My family and I are deeply connected with the land. There's a saying in the Glades, the muck gets in between your toes. So it's very much a part of us, always. I grew up working with my family in the fields, contributing any way I could to assist, doing whatever it took to produce a crop suitable to feed people. We continue to work every day to put fresh food on tables across our country, and we do it while meeting some of the strictest farming regulations anywhere in the world. Nothing that we produce goes to waste. We work closely with local food banks. I'm actually on the board of the Palm Beach County Food Bank. We work to ensure fresh foods are the staple in their programs. We farm because we love the land and because we believe feeding people is one of the most important callings there is. I feel very fortunate to be born into a family business, in agriculture. I truly believe it's a noble profession. Today's recognition may feel like a small moment, but to us it reflects 365 days a year of work spanning across multiple generations. It's early mornings and late nights, growing and bringing fresh vegetables to market, and it's a mission that we're proud to carry on. On behalf of my family and every farming family in our community, thank you for honoring the work we love to do and the land that we care for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Basore. We'll hear next from Gil Smart, followed by Newton Cook.
Morning, governing board members. My name is Gil Smart, and I'm policy director for Friends of the Everglades, founded in 1969 by Marjorie Stoneman Douglas as a direct result of plans to build the Everglades Jetport in Big Cypress. As you may be aware, my organization's been involved in litigation over the so-called Alligator Alcatraz Detention Center on that very same site. Closing arguments in the case wrapped yesterday, and the judge said she would issue a decision by next week. We and our co-plaintiffs, the Center for Biological Diversity and the Miccosukee Tribe, have asked for an injunction which would halt operations at the site while a National Environmental Policy Act review, or NEPA review, is conducted. The whole idea of NEPA, which itself came out of the Jetport fight, is that the federal government's supposed to assess the environmental impact of a project before it starts digging. The government's argument in this case has been that the detention center was not a federal project, it's a state project, and as such, NEPA doesn't apply. That's a question the judge has to decide. But all this caught our attention in relation to an item to be discussed here today, the new landmark agreement between the state of Florida and the U.S. Department of the Army to accelerate Everglades restoration, which will allow Florida to, quote, manage future SERP projects through expedited permitting. We're very curious to learn how expedited permitting will work and hope that allowing Florida to manage SERP projects won't mean skipping the NEPA review process or any other rigorous environmental assessment necessary to protect the fragile ecosystem. For as we've seen at Alligator Alcatraz, there's a school of thought that says NEPA amounts to nothing more than red tape, and it's a lot more efficient if you can avoid getting tangled in that red tape. Indeed, according to this type of thinking, some things are so important they supersede those environmental assessments even when they're required by law. Hopefully today's discussion will allay our fears, but in any event, we urge you to resist this type of thinking in this case and in all cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. We'll hear next from Newton Cook, followed by Daniel DeLisi.
Good morning, Newton Cook, United Waterfowlers of Florida. Drew, the lady at 1. I was in Tallahassee yesterday for the bear hunt. And this lady, they announced her as a winner. She's 4'11". You know, a young lady at 4, she's not this tall. Easier to see them. And that's amazing because the snakes are bigger than she is. But it was an interesting, and the district plays a big part of that. I remember the first one, and Bergeron came here, and I had my little tent up with the duck hunters. He, what the hell are you doing here to snake thing? You're duck. I said, the damn snakes eat my ducks, which actually happened one day to me. I want to thank the staff for helping us. We're going into that period when we have to do the planning and hard work for all the STAs and all the properties that you open for the duck hunters. And also, as part of that, the C-44, a lot of interest in that only 10 permits, but a lot of interest. And then everyone's looking forward to the EA2 STA. It's a giant property, and it's been running now close to 2 years. And usually after 2 years, we allow public access. So hopefully we'll start planning on what we're going to do with the EA2 STA. Of course, I was up in Tally for the bear hunt, and it did go through, as you know. I don't know how much district land might be involved. There's a bear hunt management unit in Southwest Florida, but I will check and see, because it does have an impact on your property when you have the bear hunt seasons, and this type of thing. I'm not sure it's not all in Southwest Florida, but Water Management District, but I will know that before I get back. Other than that, again, just thanks to the staff. It is a lot of work for us. We take a tour of the SDAs, and John Harbaugh, and without that work in advance, to find parking spots for people where there's openings where they can hunt. You have to remember, you got people who've never been on an SDA, because it's hard to get a permit, at 4 o'clock in the morning, out running those levees trying to find a parking number. It is interesting, and we don't want too many people getting in trouble, and the staff does a great job of getting the numbers in the proper spots and what's required to keep some order out there at 4 o'clock in the morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Next, we'll hear from Daniel DeLisi, followed by Jake Foytik.
I'd like to personally thank Newton for his dedication. He is the most dedicated person I've ever seen in regards to making sure that we have sustainable access and enjoyment across the lands that we have jurisdiction over, whether it's hikers, bikers, wildlife photographers, hunters, fishermen, conservationists, environmentalists. Your dedication, Newton, is impeccable. And it's great that we have sustainable access and enjoyment, along with flood protection, water supply, and our environment and a quality of life here in South Florida. So thank you, Newton, for your impeccable dedication for sustainable access and enjoyment.
We'll hear next from Daniel DeLisi.
Thank you. So let me start out by saying that on September 5th, the County Coalition is meeting for our annual barbecue. For the newer members, the County Coalition is 11 counties that each have a commissioner on the coalition. We meet once a quarter. The annual barbecue is in September, so it's an exciting time to come. But essentially, our mission is to help you guys to implement your mission. So I'd encourage you all to attend. I know Governing Board Member Butler attends regularly, and thank you for that. It means a lot to us, and I do want to thank your staff for all the work you put in helping us get those meetings together and the presentations. Today, it's very appropriate that you honor John Creswell as your Employee of the Month. The C43 reservoir is just absolutely amazing what you guys accomplished. Thank you to Drew, John Mitnick, Lucine, the entire team of people. It's not just an amazing project itself, you know, I mean, the design, the engineering, all of that, but the way and the competence and the character you showed as an organization in being able to get that project done in the face of adversity. I mean, there's always problems during construction. It's how you react to those problems. And part of the benefit of being able to avoid red tape, the district doesn't have a lot of red tape that other agencies have, and you were able to pivot because of that. And so congratulations on that. That's the benefit of nimble government, and that's what we talk about when we talk about efficient government. With this milestone complete or close to complete, I want to stress that this represents 170,000 acre feet of a 400,000 acre foot need in the Caloosahatchee watershed. It is only one of many projects that we need to do. Lee County is here as a partner. We want to see the remaining projects get done, and I suspect it'll have to be like the Caloosahatchee Watershed Protection Plan talks about a suite of different types of projects, similar to the IRL South, where you have multiple reservoirs, where you have a natural lands component. Lee County has spent over $400 million through its Lee County 2020 Land Acquisition Program, through ad valorem funds on natural lands acquisition. They're going to continue to implement projects, but we need to partner with the Water Management District to not rest on our laurels, so to speak, but let's just keep the momentum going and get through with the rest of the 400,000 acre feet that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeLisi. We'll hear next from Jake Foytik, followed by Mark Perry.
Good morning, everyone. Jake Foytik, Assistant Director of Government and Community Affairs for the Florida Farm Bureau Federation. I'm here, like I said, as always, on behalf of the Florida Farm Bureau. We're the state's largest general ag organization. We represent more than 132,000 member families of all sizes and commodities across the state of Florida. Today, I'm proud to share and highlight more great news about water quality success in the Everglades agricultural area, and I'm excited to see more in the Water and Ecological Conditions report later. The EAA grows far more than just sugarcane. Our farmers also produce vegetables, fruit, sod, rice, and spices, often in rotation with sugarcane. During the winter months, South Florida farms supply fresh food to as many as 180 million Americans, supporting tens of thousands of jobs and driving our state's economy. This past year, EAA farmers achieved a 62% phosphorus reduction, more than double the 25% required under the Everglades Forever Act. Since 1996, they have averaged a 57% annual reduction, removing thousands of metric tons of phosphorus from Florida's waterways. These results come from science-based best management practices. These BMPs are developed by the Florida Department of Agriculture and UF-IFAS. They conserve water, reduce nutrient loss, protect natural resources, and improve water quality. EAA farmers and farmers statewide continue to implement these BMPs, delivering cleaner water, providing wildlife habitat and green space. They do all this while ensuring a safe, abundant, and affordable food supply for our nation. So I wanted to thank the district for you guys for continuing to monitor and report on this. And thank you to our EAA farmers for proving year after year that agriculture and environmental stewardship go hand in hand. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Foytik. Next, we'll hear from Mark Perry, followed by Caitlin Newcamp.
Good morning, Governing Board. Mark Perry, Executive Director of Florida Oceanographic Society. As you probably suspect, I'm here just talking about the Northern Everglades and Estuaries Protection Plan. And as we kind of move forward in that venue on these three major watersheds, Okeechobee, Caloosahatchee, and St. Lucie, we're at a time when the BMAPs, the Basin Management Action Plans, are being updated. The 2025 has come out, and their kind of final orders are being accepted to go ahead and implement those, but they're not meeting their milestones of reduction. The TMDLs are not going to be met in the 15-year period that is being outlined. In the case of St. Lucie Estuary, the 526,000 acres of watershed still has a long ways to go to meet those milestone reductions in phosphorus and nitrogen in order to get to that total maximum daily load. And we're not there, and we're not going to get there if we don't be diligent about really reviewing how we can get there. And what's happening in a lot of cases is that the reductions, the tonnage that's coming off in nitrogen, over 1,600 tons a year coming off in nitrogen, we need to get to 516 tons a year as the target to meet the TMDL. And it's just not happening with the current BMAPs and Basin Management Action Plans and the regional projects that we're putting in. The district is in charge of a lot of what goes on in that basin. Those watersheds all kind of drain into, and you permit through the BMP works of the district permits, you permit that drainage into the canals. The conveyance canals, works of the district, C23, C24, C44, all drain into directly into the St. Lucie Estuary in this case, and bringing all that polluted runoff into that system. We need to get it under control. We need to control that permitted runoff. We need to continue to work on regional projects that'll help, but there's a lot of help that, particularly in the agricultural side, which is identified by DEP as the major stakeholder in those 22 stakeholder entities that are causing that. I think the district has a lot can do with FDACS to work on this BMP permitting within the watershed to be able to control that runoff, to be able to help them to restore, retain, and detain that water, treat that water on those up in those areas of the watershed before it runs off. And I think we can do that and do a good job. I'm looking forward to that coming forward. I understand the NEEP workshop in September 26 is great. Just stay tuned to your NEEP attachments to the agenda and continue to read on that. And Drew said they would bring that back to the governing board, to all three of the agencies, FDACS, FDEP, and the district together, working on these watershed protection plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Next, we'll hear from Caitlin Newcamp, followed by Ryan Rossi, who has his hand raised on Zoom.
Good morning, Vice Chair and governing board members. Caitlin Newcamp with Audubon, Florida. Thank you for the opportunity to comment today. Audubon and some of our partners will be sending a letter supporting the EAA BMP research program this week. It has delivered substantial phosphorus reductions over the past 3 decades, and yet some STAs are still discharging above the water quality-based effluent limit, the QBEL. Meeting that limit will take both optimized STAs and cleaner inflows from the EAA, requiring both the district and permittees to work together to get there. The proposed 5-year scope rightly looks at land use, soil depth, and phosphorus absorption capacity, but we believe it's missing a critical piece, a comprehensive nutrient budget for the study farms. Monitoring all sources of phosphorus, fertilizer, manure, and biosolids alongside outflow data will give us a clear understanding of what's driving nutrient loads. We also recommend expanding the study to include at least 2 farms in the Dania muck soils of the S8 basin. These shallower soils could influence phosphorus behavior and aren't represented in the current selection. By adding nutrient budgets and expanding soil representation, this program can be a powerful tool for closing the gap to the QBEL and protecting the Everglades. We also like to comment on the Kissimmee River restoration. Audubon, Florida urges the district to take the lead on restoring Paradise Run, part of the Lake Okeechobee Watershed Restoration Project. This is a unique, cost-effective opportunity to add 5,000 acres of floodplain back to the Kissimmee River system, increasing restored floodplain by about 20%, right where the river meets Lake Okeechobee. The floodplain here is largely intact with 10 miles of natural meanders. Because no canal backfilling is needed, rehydration could be accomplished quickly and at relatively low cost using gravity flows. The ecological benefits for fish, wildlife, and wading birds on the lake would be immediate, and the site offers clear recreational opportunities for local communities. Since the Corps has stepped away from Paradise Run, we encourage the district to step in if they can. Taking it on now would keep momentum for restoration, deliver benefits faster, and ensure this once-in-a-generation opportunity is not lost. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Ms. Newcamp. Next, we'll move over to our virtual participants, starting with Ryan Rossi, followed by William Swaim. Mr. Rossi, please unmute your mic.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay. Good morning. This is Ryan Rossi with the South Florida Water Coalition, and thanks again for the opportunity to comment. I'd actually first like to shout out all of our municipal water utilities. I actually had the opportunity to tour the water management facilities down in Boynton Beach yesterday, and I'm always impressed with the dedication of their staff. Residents need to know that for their water managers, there are no days off. These are 24-hour-a-day, 365 days a year facilities, all to ensure that residents have safe, clean, and available water, and I really do think they deserve our thanks and appreciation. Of course, that leads me to my next point, which you all know well. Managing water is a tough and careful job. And it's even more challenging when we face the conditions I think we're in right now. This has been an exceptionally dry time for us. We haven't been out of moderate to severe drought conditions in months. As a matter of fact, I checked the U.S. Drought Monitor report this morning. It comes out every Thursday. Continues to show severe and extreme conditions covering Miami-Dade through Palm Beach counties, despite some, sporadic rain that we've received over the last couple of weeks. Combine that with temperatures well into the mid-90s, and I don't think that's really helping. Now, hurricane season is heating up, and while we certainly don't want a storm, We know that a tropical event might actually provide rain for us. We went through a similar scenario, I think, a few years ago. We received what was probably weeks worth of rain in a day or two long tropical event. So the question is this the new norm? Is experiencing scorching droughts that can only be relieved by a tropical storm something we should now expect to happen to our weather more frequently? That's kind of what I've said for years. We can't hope one natural disaster relieves us from another one. I think really that what we are experiencing should give us a little pause when looking into the future of water management. Our residents really depend on strategies that will keep their water safe and available, whether it's adjusting current plans that we have now to meet conditions or even looking into storage alternatives. It's so critical to the future of our water here in South Florida. So I want to thank, first of all, the district for the work that they do, like our local utilities, especially when attempting to balance all sorts of different climate conditions while trying to ensure the water is available to all of us. And I would encourage them to continue doing so. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rossi. Next, we'll hear from William Swaim. Mr. Swaim, please unmute your mic.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me okay now?
We hear you.
Yes, I'm representing a family who owns 182 acres down in Dade County next to the C9 Canal. And I've been trying to meet with staff for the last 4 months to discuss an easement that the district seems to be exceeding the boundaries of the easement. And so far for the last 4 months, I've been stonewalled to set up a meeting, and I was hoping that the board would recommend or to advise staff to set up a meeting to discuss the issues related to this easement. And it has to do with the discharges out of the C9 where the district has a specific canal easement, and the district is actually going far beyond that easement with their discharges. And I'm just asking the board, hopefully, that they will just advise the staff to set up a meeting to discuss it. And if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Swaim. Mr. Vice Chairman, that concludes our public comment.
Okay, great. Now we're going to move on to board comment. I'd like to ask the board members if they have any comments to make. I'm going to start with Mr. Bergeron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to compliment our staff on the C-43. And I think it was mentioned it's the second largest reservoir in America. What an accomplishment, and huge benefits to the Caloosahatchee, and remarkable. Like I've always said, we have the greatest staff and the greatest commander, Drew, that oversees all this. Makes me very proud, and I'm sure my fellow board members. Also, I'd like to talk about the Python Challenge that started 15 years ago. I can remember I was an FWC commissioner at that point in time. 16,000 snakes have been removed. Half of them could be females that can have up to 100 baby snakes a year. Incredible. And in order to have a healthy food chain, we have to continue to remove these invasive snakes that's destroying our natural food and animals. Tamiami Trail, under the leadership of Drew, and I want to compliment our staff. They put together a very sophisticated critical path schedule. And we're moving forward, and I want to compliment all our federal partners, the Park Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the Corps, the Department of Interior, and also compliment all of our state partners involved, DOT, the DEP, the FWC, and obviously South Florida Water Management. We have 4 federal agencies, 4 state agencies. This is so critical. The day we accomplish and stop the cumulative backup into the Central Everglades, where we're moving about 8,000 cubic feet of water, matching the inflows from the north to the outflows to Florida Bay, that will be the greatest benefit that ties to all the projects we built over the last 25 years. And the road should be completed by March next year. The S12s that have been concerned for all of us should be operational on a condition base by December of next year. And that will be so important to equalize these water levels and reduce the discharges out our rivers in quantities greater than natural, and deliver the 2.5 million acre feet, 60% on the east side of Shark River Slough, 40% on the west side of Shark River Slough and into Lossman Slough. And I'm so excited because we're going to start getting the benefits of the bridges we built 10 years ago, the elevation of the road, and this will be the greatest benefit to the global system to stop the cumulative backups, reduce the discharges out our rivers, and deliver water to Florida Bay, stop seagrass from dying. And I just want to thank all our federal agencies and all of our sister agencies, state agencies, and we will continue to give you an update. Drew and myself have meetings every 2 to 3 months to make sure everybody's doing what's necessary to make this happen. And it'll be a great day for the Everglades.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron.
Also, one other thing is the Blue Shanty. I think it's important that all the stakeholders, as well as all of us, emphasize to the task force how important the Blue Shanty. That's the last piece of the puzzle to move water south. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. Mr. Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Begin with, I want to do my personal thank you to John Cresswell for the job he did in helping us land C-43 and finish it up. Fellow Okeechobee, and we've been able to compare some notes, and no, I appreciate him, his service, and his continued service. He's not going anywhere for a little while, so I know you got plenty of other projects to put him on, Drew. So keep him busy. Keep him busy. Right off the bat, I mentioned in my with the minutes, yeah, judicial versus judicious. Mary Cruz, I had a little faux pas there, but I thought about it as I said it. But I was talking about herbicide use, and that was in my comments last month. And met with staff afterwards, and of course, when I talked about herbicide use, I bristled Drew's hair on the back of his neck, because absolutely there is a reason to be proud for what the district is doing. The staff is collecting a lot of data and is monitoring that data and is watching our contractors, and I have confidence that the district is doing a great job in their herbicide use. Also, just kind of within our staff, looking over the fence at FWC, they use the same information, have the same type of policies according to our staff, and so that it gives me a confident feeling. And as usual, our system is also set up for continuous improvement and monitoring. And so, you know, one day if we get a report for the whole board, I look forward to it. But Drew, we are a leader, and proud. That makes me proud of the district. We've had several discussions on pythons today. Last month, I got to join the USDA Secretary, Brooke Rollins, for a roundtable discussion with a bunch of other ag leaders throughout the state. And that was the night before. Our meeting was at 8:30 in the morning, and the night before she was down in the Glades python hunting with another good Okeechobee, Sammy Allgood. He's been leading some python tours down there. In fact, I needed him to weld on a trailer. Instead, he's off doing python hunts. But I think he makes more money off those. But anyways, she caught 2 pythons on her trip. But we had a nice roundtable discussion there. That was there in mid-July. One of the things that I've learned to look forward to in August around here is the numbers coming out for phosphorus reductions south of Lake O and the EAA and C-139 basin. It was referenced in some of the comments this morning, but I went ahead and I took a little liberty in asking for those numbers ahead of time, and I think it was on a Saturday, and Ms. Reynolds got it sent to me. And I was able to share those numbers with Ms. Rollins and share what our farmers are doing, especially south of Lake O and what they have historically done when it comes to nutrient reductions with BMPs on their farms. And again, these are projects that, you know, they cost money to implement these things, and that crop that they're growing has to pay for these part of these BMPs. But I think Jake mentioned the 62% reductions in the EAA. When you look at C-139, I was just running some numbers. They don't list that very easy, but with they came in at 39% below the target load for phosphorus and 77% below the limit in the C-139. So both those basins will overperform their expectations this year, and I want to say thank you to those farmers. And Secretary Rollins was extremely impressed to hear that. Moving on, herbicide. The headwaters, Kissimmee River restoration headwaters going on right now. Essentially they're trying to, the Corps is going through a process much like they did with LOSUM in developing a new regulation schedule for Lakes Kissimmee, Cypress, and Hatchinahaw. And again, going that process where they have all these models, iterations, Pareto's or whatever you call them. And they're boiling it down. They're down to three different scenarios. They're boiling down to one. They're going to go into flood control type analysis now. Anyways, my point of bringing this up is they have, with all the different model runs they run, they have an ideal target or that they would like these different models with way they regulate Lake Kissimmee to improve different aspects either of Kissimmee River or Lake Kissimmee, Cypress, and Hatchinahaw. And when it came to Kissimmee River, one of the biggest limits, and no matter what model they run, given the current constraints, meeting 40% of that target goal was about the best that they could do with any of the model runs they did. One of the key limiting factors that all of our scientists recognize is the lack of storage. And storage in the northern part of the system there. Without that storage that has been lost over the years, you're not going to meet the full goal for the restoration. We're going to have restoration. We have restoration. We have things, and it looks great. But so my point is as we continue to look forward, we've got to continue to look forward for more storage. And it's only getting tougher to find those more storage opportunities as we continue to build out and continue to develop in the northern part of the system. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention while it was hot on the deal. It was a slide that was given during that presentation last month, and just wanted to put that for everybody. Final thing, end of this month, August 28th, there will be a community meeting in Okeechobee for the Lower Kissimmee Basin Stormwater Treatment Area. It'll be at the Indian River State College. I think it's been publicly noticed. Anybody can attend, all board members, if you want to. Jen's shaking her head. 2 meetings, 2 o'clock and 5:30. Just wanted to go ahead and get that comments, make sure it's on everybody's mind. So it'll be an update of where that STA's, how that's performing. And Scott, I know I told you that was final. I got, let's see, one more. I know, don't grumble. We're going to get you there. Caitlin mentioned Paradise Run. That's what it was. Caitlin mentioned Paradise Run. I think that that is a beautiful area. The district owns a lot of the land already in that area. There's still some private ownership in that area. I think that, you know, it's on the CERT project. I think, you know, like with a lot of this stuff, you're never going to fully restore it. Looking at the water levels, I think that there is opportunity there, especially opportunity as we talk about Lower Kissimmee Basin STA to also have some nutrient removal aspect to that project. And just, you know, as envisioned, it's naturally going to remove nutrients. So I would support further looking at the Paradise Run, but also realizing we've got these neat goals that Mark Perry keeps reminding us that we've got to meet, and I think it is an opportunity to have some type of regional project associated with Paradise Run. So that's kind of where I am on that one. With that, that's it, Scott.
All good, Mr. Butler. Mr. Hurley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Real quickly, I just want to sort of re-acknowledge the Habitat Restoration and Lake Okeechobee team for their work they did, taking advantage of the time that we have with the lake being where it is. I guess that's the upside of having an extended dry season. I had the opportunity with Ms. Newcamp and Dr. Gray to go out on the lake and physically see the sort of the status of things, and that was really, really helpful, and I appreciate them and the time they took to have me out there. You know, it's our organization, as I've come to see it, is phenomenally nimble, and I'm for a size of the group that we have and the professionals and the busyness that they have on the big projects, when they have an opportunity to go in and take advantage of the conditions to actually go in and try to do some planting and facilitate the recovery of the lake. I think that's really important work, and again, I just wanted to acknowledge them for that. But that's all I have.
Very good, Mr. Hurley. Chairman Goss, any comments?
No, I have no comments this morning. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez. Colonel Roman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to make a few comments. First of all, I want to congratulate Drew and the entire district team, particularly John Creswell, for getting the C-43 across the finish line. That was wonderful to be a part of that ribbon cutting. Also, I had the chance to go out with Dr. Paul Gray on Lake Okeechobee, and I would like to thank Audubon for that opportunity. It was encouraging to see the growth of the vegetation that was coming back to the lake, and I appreciate that. And lastly, I wanted to thank the State Forest Service and Mike Weston for getting the team from the basin up over the Picayune Strand to see the hydrology during rainy season. It was encouraging to see it returning to the landscape, so really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel
And
Roman.
that's all I have. That's all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you, Colonel Roman. Mr. Spotswood.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Would like to just reiterate, many of the comments from fellow board members here, particularly around the efforts on Lake Okeechobee. Also would like to thank the American Water Resource Association, who hosted their annual meeting down in Key West last week. I was able to attend, and some of our staff was there. Always good to see those folks and the great work they're doing. And nothing further from me this morning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Spotswood. I just want to make a brief comment myself about our partnership and our work with the Army Corps of Engineers, which has been great. The best way that I can sort of characterize our relationship with them is more of a sibling rivalry. We're sort of in the trenches with them on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes there's some rough edges, but overall, I think what's happening now is going to be a great thing for the state of Florida. We'll be able to relieve, I think, some of the pressure from the Army Corps in terms of their workload, and I think we'll be able to do things in a great fashion. I'm looking forward to the presentation and briefing on that. At this time, we'll go to the consent agenda, and before we get there, I'd like to ask if any board members want to move any items on the consent agenda to discussion. Hearing nothing, we'll go to public comment on consent agenda items. Molly, is there any public comment?
We do have a public comment. We'll hear first from Newton Cook.
Okay, great.
Newton Cook, United Water Followers of Florida. Should have started up a little sooner. At least I'm not on the cane anymore. Item 14, obviously, I don't normally get up very often during one time a meeting normally, but item 14 is on the consent agenda. It's expand youth and wounded warrior hunts, and obviously, I definitely support that. And as I've said before, the district just does incredible work with the youth and the wounded warriors. We do a lot of the wounded warriors, and you have to give a lot of credit for all the other than waterfowl to Bishop Wright and FSCA, the Florida Sportsman Conservation Association. They do just hundreds of people. They get them out into the woods. And also, we need to give credit to the State Forest Service and Operation Outdoor Freedom, who specifically supply us with the hunters, the wounded warrior hunters, for all the different hunts. And that's not the ducks. They also do the other game as well. So obviously, this is something that we want to do. And if you just had been out with the wounded warrior and stood there when I could stand up in the water now, sat in the kayak, and watch these people, and the sun comes up, and the birds jump, not just the ducks, but all the birds jump over the marsh. It's just incredible, the noise, and you stand there and look at that, and they'll turn around and say, which one can I shoot? It's a miracle, and these guys, they're so appreciative. They're so appreciative. And it's a highlight of the year for me, the two hunts that we hold at SDA 1 West. But if you want to come out and see something, it takes a hunter, requires a guide and a helper. So you get 15 hunters, and now you got 45 people. It becomes a big exercise. So thanks again to the district for making it all possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Now moving over to our virtual participants, we'll hear from Nyla Pipes. Ms. Pipes, please unmute. Please unmute, Ms. Pipes.
Sound check?
We hear you.
Fantastic. Sorry, it took a minute for that unmute button to become available. I also want to speak in favor of the expansion of the special opportunity hunts on district lands. FWC's Youth Gator program or Youth Hunt program, which we specifically as a family like the Gator portion of it, is very important for entry into the wilds of Florida for our youth. And most importantly, I believe, their parents. So many times we go on one of these youth hunts and participate either as volunteers or with our own youth. And we are out there with moms who had no idea that they had the opportunity to get out into the wild in such a way. People who have never been exposed to the inland portion of Florida or our great Everglades system. So I just want to say that this is such an important program The more we can get people on our district lands, the better. And to that note, I also want to speak in favor of extending the Riverwoods Field Laboratory contract with FAU, because not only is that an important site for science and monitoring, but it's also an important site for education and public outreach in the Northern Everglades, in that portion north of Lake Okeechobee where we need to extend our efforts. So I just wanted to, give a little kudos for both of those efforts, and encourage you to extend those efforts as much as possible and expand on them when possible, because the more people we get out into wild Florida, the more people care about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pipes. Mr. Vice Chairman, we have no additional public comment.
Okay, great. Thank you, Molly. We'll move now to the board vote on the consent agenda. Can I have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda items 13 through 20?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Mr. Bergeron has the motion. Mr. Butler has seconded. We'll call the question. Mr. Bergeron?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Hurley?
Yes.
Chairman Goss?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez? Colonel Roman?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Spotswood?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The consent agenda passes unanimously. We're now going to move on to the discussion agenda, and we will be, and just make a note, this is a briefing item only. There's no board action required, but this is going to be the briefing on the new landmark agreement between the state of Florida and the U.S. Department of the Army to accelerate Everglades restoration. Drew Bartlett, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 board meetings in a row you have Drew in discussion. Sorry about that. But I couldn't help myself. This is definitely historic. And I was there, and I just got to say this governor never rests when it comes to this ecosystem restoration effort that we're doing. And so I want to go through a little bit of reflection before I talk about the agreement itself. And as you know, and all the public knows, he came out of the gate when he first became governor signing these executive orders saying that we need to achieve more for Florida's environment, and then in his second term, achieve even more for Florida's environment. And through his efforts in these 2 terms, in those executive orders, he asked for a total of $6 billion. He's not even done, and him with the support of the legislature have put forward $8 billion for Florida's environment, which is making an absolute difference. And that's how I'll conclude my presentation, is talking about the difference that this makes for the state of Florida. And we've been at it for 6.5 years now, and we have gotten a lot done as a South Florida Water Management District in partnership with the Corps of Engineers. These are all the projects that we've completed. And we have this montage of all the ribbon cuttings that we've experienced, and this is not all of them, right? This is just the major ones. And so what I want to do is, and guess what ribbon cutting is not in this, the C-43. So there's even more to this montage than meets the eye. But let's just talk about some of the things we've done. Through decades of work with staff at the Water Management District and the Corps finishing up the construction, we have finished the Kissimmee River restoration. You see the wiggle is back in the river. It did its job for a bit for the economy, but now it's time for it to do its job for the wildlife, which we are seeing the benefits of that right now. And then, of course, we have the ribbon cutting at the C-43 reservoir, the largest dam, second largest dam, Mr. Bergeron, in the United States, only behind the Herbert Hoover Dike, but it is the largest above-ground reservoir in the United States. And so that has now come to fruition. It's a reality, and it was a sight to see. Such a big site. You can't even see the other side. It's such a big site. And then, of course, we had uncorking Tamiami Trail. And so under his leadership, we had a groundbreaking and a ribbon cutting for removing the old Tamiami Trail, so when the water goes through the gates, it actually can get into Everglades National Park, and then preventing the stoppage of water by controlling the flooding events that were happening in the Las Palmas community with an underground seepage barrier. We started and finished. You can see in this video the water is in the park and not in the community. It works well. Before the wall, it would look the same on both sides of that levee. right? So it was two things, and ever since that wall's been in, we have never cut off the water to Everglades National Park. And that used to be every other year we cut off the water to Everglades National Park. Very exciting times. And then, of course, we finished the construction of restoration strategy, and that is putting clean water in the Everglades. And right now, we're doing the operational testing for this latest addition, which is the C-139 flow equalization basin. That's the place where we take the storm surge out of the C-139 basin so it doesn't go straight into our STAs. We get some water quality treatment with this as well. But what I wanted to highlight is these maps in the lower left corner. This is phosphorus concentrations in the Everglades themselves. And you can see just 20 years ago, we had higher phosphorus concentrations. What you want to see in that is the small green dot. And you can see all the way through Everglades National Park, we have small green dots. Most of, if not all, basically 98% of the Everglades is a small green dot, right? So the efforts of the farmers, the efforts of the Water Management District and the DEP is actually is very much paying off for the benefit of the Everglades. And so this is one of those things where results matter, and you're seeing actual results in the Everglades when it comes to water quality. And then, of course, we started and finished the stormwater treatment area for the EAA reservoir, so much so that Newton Cook comes up and already wants to tromp around in it. I don't blame him. But this is, I saw it earlier this week. It looks great. The plants are growing in. And it is going to be the perfect addition, pairing with where the EAA reservoir will be on the left side of that video. But again, another accomplishment started and completed under the governor. But he never rests, right? So here we have this brand new landmark agreement that was signed on July 18th to basically do a number of things: accelerate the EAA reservoir to finish in 2029, accelerate the Blue Shanty Flowway, Mr. Bergeron, by turning it over to us to bring our nimble organization to get that thing done, and then enable us to fast track all the future projects. So I'm going to go into some sort of detail in these agreements because there's two actual signed agreements here. One of them, which the governor signed and the Assistant Secretary of the Army signed, which was a memorandum of agreement signed on July 28th. But this had a number of commitments that both the Army and the state of Florida committed to. The most prominent being completing the EAA reservoir project in 2029. And so there was a commitment made by the Army, who has the major contracts associated with that. But part of it was, hey, there's 2 pump stations associated with this. The Army has not issued contracts on those 2 pump stations. And so one of them is controlling seepage, one of them is pumping the water in. So let's have the state build those with its ability to procure quickly and nimbly. And then the state has substantial resources, whether it's the Water Management District or FDOT. We have a lot of construction resources that we can make available, not for free. This agreement does not commit the state to more funds. I want to make that clear. But it agrees to better processes and better procedures to try to to expedite the construction for the EAA reservoir. It does, in this MOA, turn over the construction of the Blue Shanty Flowway to the state with federal dollars. So we have, and I'll get more into that a little bit later. And then here's where we talk about permits. Part of this MOA was expediting permitting, including the permitting for the Lower Kissimmee Basin Stormwater Treatment Area. That's how important the governor thinks of that project. But I have talked to you many times about the fact that you're awarding a contract or approving a contract and you haven't got the permit yet. We're meeting all the requirements for the permit. We eventually get the permit, and then we can move forward. And so what we're trying to do, and we got the commitment from the Army, is we're going to make sure we process that procurement in a priority manner. Nothing about shortcutting requirements, right? This MOA does not change that requirement. We will meet every requirement needed to get every permit necessary. We just don't want to find ourselves in that position where we can't actually give a notice to proceed to a contractor because we're waiting on a permit. and it's a processing thing. We've met the conditions, it's just more of a processing thing. So we have the commitment from the Army to make sure we don't get in that situation again. The other document that was signed is a memorandum of understanding, and that was signed by myself, Alexis Lambert from the Department of Environmental Protection, and the Assistant Secretary of the Army, Lee Forsgren. And that has a number of components. It's a more granular type of document that gets into more of the authorities and details of how we're going to proceed with expediting Everglades restoration through SERP. The one thing that it established is a SERP oversight group, which I sit on, and DEP, and then 2 members from the Army, General Kelly and Lee Forsgren, and then a member from the governor's office, all sit on this oversight group to make sure that there's no hiccups in the process, right? That's what we have to do, implement some new authorities to move funds to the Water Management District to build these projects, and we need to make sure that there's no other agreements that might hold up progress. And this oversight group is there to keep an eye on things and make sure that if a problem needs to be solved, the right people are in the room to solve that problem. So that's the type of oversight group. The first action coming out of this MOU is a framework for how to deal with budgeting, how to deal with processing agreements, using what authorities, on how to have the district build these projects on behalf of the federal government with federal funds, right? That's a new thing. We went through this in Accelerate, gosh, what is that, 15 years ago, where the district was going to start building projects on behalf of the federal government with state dollars. So this is the same thing. It's just building those federal projects with federal dollars, using our procurement methods, our ways of moving forward in a very nimble way to get these projects done. And the data's been showing it's a little more cost effective as well. So we are, so basically the MOU basically sets the framework for us building these federal projects. So how are these agreements actually speeding up the EAA reservoir project? Okay, first of all, I talked to the colonel yesterday. They have established a E3 team for the project. That's Expediting EAA Engagement Team, which is formed, reporting straight to the colonel. That's where John Mitnick is right now, is with that team, looking at how we can work with the contractors, work with state resources to actually speed this thing up, and not have any sort of red tape within government that might get in the way, right? It's a very focused team reporting at the highest level. The other thing is for the EAA reservoir inflow pump station, we had that to build, but when it was going to be done in 2034, we had plenty of time. Suddenly, it's going to be done in 2029. We don't have plenty of time. We got to get started with this pump station. Within 2 weeks of that agreement getting signed, we had the solicitation up on the street. It's out for bid right now. We are not going to wait for the October board meeting. We are actually going to bring it to you in the September budget meeting, September 23rd, I think, budget meeting, and have you not only approve the ad valorem rates, but approve a contract for a pump station so that we can have a groundbreaking and get that pump station underway to meet the timelines for it. The other one is a seepage pump station. We have the design for that seepage pump station. It's a much smaller pump station, not as complicated. So we are looking to get those designs. We've got them from the Corps. We're getting them ready for our procurement process and looking for a district award in 2026. The other thing, now that we're going to have a lot more activity on site, right? A lot of contractors moving a lot of dirt much rapidly. So we're very good at logistics on these sites, as you can see from what John Creswell was able to accomplish. So we are going to take a much higher responsibility for making sure the logistics, whether it's egress, everything associated with a lot of contractors doing a lot of work on a construction site. And then we've within 2 weeks, we issued also a permit for dewatering. You know, we've got the whole team working. The thing that has to be said is that funding is key, right? This is a big reservoir that we're going to build 5 years faster. And obviously, with the federal government's and the Army's commitment on this, they are committed to the funding. The it takes Congress as well. So our delegation's going to be engaged. There's a whole lot of stakeholder support that will be necessary to make sure that while we have the administration's commitment, we also have Congress's commitment to make sure this thing happens on an expedited time frame. Oh, I had a video. So this is the construction site for the EAA reservoir as it sits right now. That's the inflow-outflow canal that's coming across the north end of the site. And here we have working on the foundation for the east side of the reservoir site where you see all the stockpile of material, getting ready for embankments. All right, another part of the memorandum of agreement was accelerating the Blue Shanty flowway, Mr. Bergeron. And so we have, as you know, we have taken over, so let me have, do I have a pointer here? Yes, I do. So this is what the Blue Shanty flowway is, right? So this is where the this is Tamiami Trail. This is where the 2.5 mile bridge is. So what this is a high volume flowway that trains the water from Water Conservation Area 3A through the 2.5 mile bridge. The first cog in that is this structure right here, which we just awarded the contract on to start building that structure. That structure keeps the water trained to go under the bridge, but the other parts of it is to degrade this levee, the L67C, to build this levee to make sure it goes under the bridge, and to degrade this levee down here, the L29 levee, so that it's a flowway that goes under the bridge. And then there's a canal here that we want to fill so it doesn't short circuit straight. And this is Shark River Slough. So that's the Blue Shanty flowway, super high volume of water. Once we have the reservoir and the flowway, that reservoir water can go through that flowway, right? So that's why we wanted to accelerate it, and that's why Mr. Bergeron talks about it every board meeting, to make sure everyone's aware of what we need to do. The Corps has transferred the remaining designs. They were removing this levee, and building this levee. They're currently building these structures up here. But they've transferred those designs to us, so we're picking them up, trying to get them ready for solicitation. We do need to make progress on this. They are mobilizing as we speak to get that done, and we're hoping to have a groundbreaking for this Blue Shanty flowway later this year. And so that's, you know, we are bringing that up in the schedule if we're able to get the federal funds. Again, key, the Corps is still paying for this, we're just building it. We need to get the federal funds in order to take about 2 years off that schedule to complete the whole thing. So that's how we're accelerating the Blue Shanty. So it's a big agreement. A lot of changes are happening. There's a lot of effort happening to implement these agreements. And kind of it's resulting in this construction, right? This is all the construction for the next fiscal year 2025-6 when it comes to the Central Everglades Protection Plan. Building the pump stations, we are expanding the canals that connect Lake Okeechobee to the EAA reservoir because we're going to pull all that extra water down. And so those canals are expanding, and we're going to finish up the North New River Canal next year, but we're going to start building the Miami Canal as well. The Blue Shanty Flowway, obviously we're going to building that. And then SEP North is the one that Lucene walks you through every couple of months because that's about, what, 8 contracts or something? It's a lot of different pieces and parts to that. And so this L5 canal, S8 pump station, and L6 diversion will all start construction of those in the next fiscal year to put water in the right place on the north side of the Central Everglades. It's a lot of effort, a lot of activity, but it's paying off. And the governor shows these. I like to remind folks this is the restoration we're after. We're seeing the connected river of grass in Everglades National Park. We're seeing more balanced salinity in Florida Bay. But also, we did some calculations, and the harmful discharges are being reduced significantly under the governor's term. We haven't had any lost summers, but you're looking at between 75 and 86% reduction of high volume discharge to our estuaries during that time frame with a repaired Hoover Dike, with more balanced operating conditions. We're seeing the difference for our estuaries as well. So we're not done. There's more to come, but we know that it pays off when we make this happen. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Drew, thank you very much. This time I think we'll go to public comment. Molly?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. We'll hear first from Mark Perry, followed by Caitlin Newcamp.
Again, Governing Board, Mark Perry. This is kind of a monumental thing that has happened recently, and we kind of tracking it, following it directly, obviously to accelerate things like the EA Reservoir project from completion date expected by the integrated delivery schedule is 2034. If we can do that in 4 years instead of the full term, that'd be awesome. I mean, 2029 is going to be great. These memorandum of understanding and agreements are clear in how they want to coordinate activities between the agencies and get things going and kind of move things forward. I draw your attention to your attachment to your agenda. This has always been a good attachment, the SERP construction and project updates. There are 21 projects listed in here, and on the page 2, of course, talks about those specific projects, the Central Everglades Planning Project, which are the EA Reservoir, the Blue Shanty, and others. And so those dates have been updated to say completion look like 2029, which is a really good, awesome. And you just heard from Drew about sending that water south and getting those things in place in order to stop those damaging discharges, obviously, to the estuaries, which LOSUM will also help to do that, but LOSUM requires that instead of discharging the estuaries, we put that water south, right? So that's kind of our major objective. One thing I do draw attention to is on the last page talks about Lake Okeechobee Watershed project, restoration project, LORP. And we just learned recently that the Corps has terminated the LORP and not going forward. We're disappointed about that. Mr. Butler brought that up earlier. We hopefully, maybe through this agreement, can help, see if the district and others can help move something forward north of the lake. We've lost a lot of that from the original Yellow Book. We're supposed to do a lot of more stores north of the lake. And we've been losing that piece by piece over time, and this is another a nail in that coffin, so to say, if we don't get that storage and treatment north of the lake to help slow and get that water right coming into the lake. So we need to really look into, we've got LOCAR moving forward, which will help, and other things like that, but we need real help to get maybe a relook at the Lake Okeechobee Watershed project, restoration project. And I encourage you all to maybe look into that. But monumental agreement, great to get this cooperation and initiative to move things forward quicker. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Next, we'll hear from Caitlin Newcamp, followed by Ben Olson.
Hello again. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Caitlin Newcamp with Audubon. So we definitely commend the district and the Corps for entering into this landmark agreement to accelerate Everglades restoration. And we welcome the commitment to expedite the construction of the EAA Reservoir, advance the Blue Shanty Flowway, and improve coordination for future CERT projects. And thank you, Drew, for outlining how this may work and how logistically it's all going to pan out. These measures will help expedite delivery of fresh, clean water south to the Everglades and Florida Bay, critical for restoring the ecosystem, supporting wildlife, and protecting coastal communities from saltwater intrusion. While we welcome this acceleration, we want to make sure other essential restoration projects also keep pace. The remaining Step South components and related projects are critical to unlocking the full benefits of the EAA Reservoir and achieving the comprehensive restoration envisioned under SERP. The reservoir is a critical restoration project, and we applaud the continued state and federal commitment to bring it across the finish line. We must remain mindful of proper sequencing to avoid water flow bottlenecks that may occur, so we urge the agencies to follow a balanced system-wide approach to scheduling and funding, ensuring that all components needed to restore freshwater flows to the southern Everglades advance in step. Audubon, Florida looks forward to working with the district and the Corps to ensure that the momentum generated by this agreement extends to all key restoration projects, delivering the full ecological and community resilience benefits of Everglades restoration. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Ms. Newcamp. Next, we'll move over to our virtual participants, starting with Ben Olson. Mr. Olson, please unmute your mic.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We hear you.
Okay. As I hear about the state taking over more control of SERP and restoration, I've got to say I'm having a more positive outlook. As you all know, because I bring it up constantly, I'm a fourth-generation landowner in the WARP Region 2 footprint. It was August 10, 2022, 3 years and 4 days ago today, that the landowners in Region 2 were informed of the project, which functionally changed our lives. Because WERP was a federal project, it was up to the Army Corps to inform us, but they didn't until the last minute, almost as if to sneak it by us. The feds hid the project from us for about 6 years. In communications I obtained by FOIA, it really seemed to me that Water Management was doing and has done everything they can to try to get this right, while the Corps was just kind of pushing forward no matter what. While that first meeting was contentious, it was Water Management which took the lead in landowner outreach after the fact. Throughout this process, we've asked repeatedly to be brought to the table on this restoration project. The feds have largely ignored us. Water Management staff pick up the phone, schedule meetings, come out for site visits, and continue to work with us. The landowners have a trove of knowledge that will benefit and expedite restoration. This district is the only agency who has continuously and actively engaged with us outside of our 3-minute speeches. I am incredibly grateful Water Management deviated from the federally authorized selected plan and is utilizing the Feeder Canal Basin Water Quality Program to modify WERP to make sure we get it right. I am still concerned that no other state or federal agency acknowledges the flaws with WERP or acknowledges the Feeder Basin Program, but for the time being, Water Management being our bulwark is not too bad of a position to be in. Last year, this time, you all authorized the WERP resolution. That resolution gave us some immense protection, including refusal to utilize eminent domain without request. Likewise, Executive Director Bartlett clarified that the Kissimmee-Billy closable culverts being dictated by a single entity, resulting in severe impact to both the landowners and primary Florida panther habitat, would be illegal. Mr. Butler said it properly when he said, "We are involved for life now." I fully agree. I will do everything I can to ensure we protect our environment, the land my family has called home for 4 generations, our beautiful slice of paradise. As the federal government deviates from habitat protection, and as the feds seemingly hide modeling information from the public and Congress, it will be up to state agencies like Water Management to ensure restoration is proper. I am very much looking forward to dealing with staff on the Feeder Basin State Alternative to WERP's Region 2, and I'm really looking forward to the new modeling coming soon. Thank you for working with us, and I know you guys won't say it this way, but thank you for continuing to move restoration a little further away from the Corps. I greatly appreciate it. I know quite a few others do as well. Thank you very much, staff, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Next, we'll hear from Nyla Pipes. Ms. Pipes, please unmute.
Sound check.
We hear you.
Nyla Pipes, One Florida Foundation. I too am in support of this, as I know that over time the state has most often been able to move at a much quicker pace on Everglades restoration than the Army Corps and the federal government. Anytime we have taken on a portion of a project, we have proven that time and time again. I just want to add a little bit to what Mr. Olson just said. You know, you're coming into this at a time where I would say that mistrust of our state agencies is at an all-time high. For a number of reasons. You know, we had the state parks fiasco. I know that's not under your purview. More recently, Alligator Alcatraz, which I know people have very mixed feelings about and is also not under your purview, but definitely affects the Everglades. These are examples of times when state agencies have moved ahead on things without being sure to take the public along, without giving the public what they felt and are entitled to, in my humble opinion, to be their right for public input, to make sure that we are managing our state lands, our shared resources that are owned by the public in a way that is good for the majority, that is good for all of us, that is good for the state of Florida. So I just want to caution you, as I am in support of this, I will stand beside you on everything that you're trying to do to move forward, because we have to do Everglades restoration at a much quicker pace than we have done in the past. And I know removal of some of the red tape at the federal level will help with that. Just be very conscious of the fact that the public needs to be involved. We need to make sure that we're still doing the necessary things to make sure that we're not harming our environment, that we are truly making strides forward. And, you know, we dot our I's and cross our T's. So with that, I look forward to the next several years of Everglades restoration, and am really happy that you guys are moving forward on these projects.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pipes. Next, we'll hear from Jessica Namath. Ms. Namath, please unmute.
Yes, hello, thank you. I very much appreciate Ms. Pipe's comments and echo those sentiments, and am curious just how the $11 million contract with asphalting at Alligator Alcatraz will affect both the Tamiami Trail project and the southern flow in general. And was also wondering if there were any baselines or if you guys have any plans to monitor the water and what's happening down here. And again, just curious how the asphalting of the 20 acres that we currently are aware of and 20 more to come will potentially impact the flow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Namath. Next, we'll hear from DS, who has their hand raised on Zoom.
Hi, yes, my name is Dylan Scott, and I just wanted to echo also the past two comments from Mrs. Pipes and Ms. Namath. I do have a lot of concerns about the Alligator Alcatraz facility and how it will impact flows within the Everglades and how it will impact Everglades restoration. And I did just want to ask the board, if they are on board with once Alligator Alcatraz is shut down, will the board pursue acquiring this property, whether it be by South Florida Water Management District or a state entity or the tribe, to further secure that property for Everglades restoration and conservation into perpetuity? The amount of infrastructure that has been added to that facility and the damage from Alligator Alcatraz is alarming, and that was not the intent of that facility. We need to set that clock back, remove the runway, return those lands to the Everglades, and get them back into restoration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vice Chairman, we have no additional public comment on this item.
Okay, now we'll move to board comment. Yeah, of course, we're doing that right now. Bergeron, you're up first.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Drew, for pushing the Blue Shanty, that last piece of the puzzle that allows water to flow. When you look at that eastern side, you got the 333 north and south, and they're capable of about 3,000 cubic feet per second. With the Blue Shanty, we can achieve the 1,500,000 acre feet that naturally flowed south on the eastern side of Shark River Slough. Extremely important that we accelerate the Blue Shanty, and thank you for doing that. I know we're working on the west side, west of the L28, remodeling the Tamiami Trail and Loop Road to make sure that the water that flows by gravity naturally gets to the Lossman Slough and to the 10,000 Islands. That's one more piece of the puzzle. So the one thing that everyone needs to really understand, the 2.5 million acre feet that we started 25 years ago to achieve moving south by gravity in the oozing river of grass, the Blue Shanty, and I know I'm repeating myself, is important that we complete that eastern side. And then the western side would allow the 1 million acre feet, 40% of the 2.5 million acre feet, without a cumulative backup in the central Everglades, Big Cypress, Picayune, Thackahachie, Panther Refuge. And anytime we back up this water, obviously part of that 2.5 million acre feet is going to go out our rivers in quantities greater than natural. We're on the threshold of a tremendous benefit in the next couple of years. And I just want to thank you, your staff, the Corps, and I know I sound like a broken record, but that 2.5 million acre feet should never go in a reservoir. Needs to move south to Florida Bay. And I think we're on a very good path. What they call the oil road, just west of the L-28.
11 mile.
Is there any plans on culverts that allow that water to flow southwest?
Right, yeah, it is the 11-mile road, I think we call it. But yeah, we have the 3 culverts going in the L-28, and we're designing the culverts for Loop Road and the 11-mile road, which doesn't involve a US highway, so that can go a little bit quicker. So we'll have new culverts in those, and then we're, of course, working with DOT for 3 more culverts on US 41.
Okay. And how are we coming on the modeling of the Tamiami Trail west of the L-28 and Loop Road?
We got the modeling done. Now it's just a matter of design, and construction at this point.
Okay. Be a great day for the Everglades when we get the west side done and the east side done, and it'll benefit the whole global system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Butler? No comments. Okay. Mr. Hurley, have anything? No? Chairman Goss? Mr. Martinez, Colonel Roman?
Yes, I have one thing. I just would like to say what an honor it was to join the governor for this landmark occasion, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers leadership and our staff, and are joined by fellow governing board members. This wouldn't be possible without the bold leadership of the governor, and also this board and our tremendous staff at the district for such an agreement to be possible. It's because of the confidence that they have in the district that they were able to reach this agreement in such a short period of time and allow us, or let us loose, if you will, to go ahead and get the job done. So this is very, very special in the history of the district. So I just wanted to share that so that this moment doesn't just pass by and we don't really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Roman. Excellent presentation. Mr. Spotswood? No comment. Okay, Drew, great presentation. We'll move on to the technical reports. We've got an upgrade from John Mitnick. Sue Kirkland will be giving a report along with Cassandra Armstrong. Me too.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me fill in for Mr. Mitnick this morning for the water conditions report.
We actually cannot hear you.
Oh, it wasn't on, that's why. Okay. This first slide looks at the monthly rainfall over the past year and a half, but we'll focus in a little bit on the last couple of months. This wet season started on May 22nd, 2025. And since then, the month of July, here we go. Since then, the month of July, we had a deficit. We're at about 84% of normal for the month. Sorry, I said July, that was June. The month of July, we were pretty much at normal. And we're about halfway through the month of August so far. And looking on the left-hand side of the slide for the month of August, we're about 16% of normal so far for this month. With the upper Kissimmee and the lower Kissimmee, shoot, I did it again. With the upper Kissimmee and the lower Kissimmee being mostly well above normal. The west coast and moving down around the southern end of the system, approximately at normal. And Palm Beach County and the eastern ag areas being more well below normal. And if we look over to the right-hand side of the slide and the wet season so far to date, the numbers tell a story of the district as a whole being approximately at normal, 99%, a deficit of just 1/4 inch of rain. However, as you can see from the plot, there's a very wide discrepancy and a skew in how the rainfall fell. For the northern half of the district and western half of the district, we are above normal with surpluses of 1 to 3.5 inches. However, on the lower East Coast and southern area of the district, we've got deficits of anywhere between 3 to 6 inches. And in the Upper Kissimmee, with the rain that we were just talking about, the Upper Kissimmee has come alive over the past couple of weeks. All of the smaller lakes are at or above summer pool and are discharging to return to schedule or remain at their summer pool regulation schedules. As you can see here, East Lake Toho is a little above regulation schedule, and we are discharging to return to schedule and maintain that schedule. Lake Toho is at schedule and is discharging to remain there, with that water moving into Lakes Kissimmee, Cypress, and Hatchnaha. With that water coming in, Lake Kissimmee has been rising over the past couple of weeks, and we are now in Zone B1 of the Kissimmee River Headwaters Increment 1 deviation schedule. The stage has been rising and releases to the river have been increasing in accordance with that schedule, and the current flow to the river measured at S65A is 2,600 CFS. Bottom left corner, Lake Istapoga is pretty much right at schedule and discharging as needed to remain at schedule.
All right, as Sue Lynn said, the northern portion of the Kissimmee River started to come alive, and with that, we have seen some water on the floodplain. On average, we have a little over 1/2 foot of water sitting on our floodplain, and we're starting to see more greens and yellows in our WDAT map. And currently, as of the 10th, the water flow through S65A was 1,800 CFS, which is above our threshold for a 1,400 CFS for bank full flow discharge. So the water is now coming out of the channel and out into the floodplain. And with that, we've also seen an increase in flow. And when that happens, frequently we see a drop in our dissolved oxygen concentrations. And right now we are right at 2 milligrams per liter dissolved oxygen, which is right at the threshold of our stress range for aquatic organisms.
Okay, next we'll look at how water has moved around the upper portion of the system. For this water year, 390,000 acre feet has moved into Lake Okeechobee, with the majority of this from the Lake Istapoga Indian Prairie area, as well as the Kissimmee, River. These two at the top here. On the west coast, the total flow to the Caloosahatchee is just over 254,000 acre feet, with the majority of this being local basin runoff, with just under 17,000 acre feet coming from Lake Okeechobee. Over on the east coast, there has been no flow to the St. Lucie estuary from the C44 canal. With the Lake Okeechobee at about 12.2 feet in GVD, most of the runoff in the C44 canal has been discharging back to the lake at S308. So far, this is just under 65,000 acre feet this water year. The C23 and C24 basins combined have received rainfall and generated approximately 82,000 acre feet so far this water year. And further north, the C25 basin has generated about 41,000 acre feet of runoff to the Indian River Lagoon. Okay, for Lake Okeechobee and the projection of what we can reasonably expect moving forward, we will look at the conditional position analysis under LOSUM. As I said, Lake Okeechobee is at about 12.2 feet NGVD, sitting just above the water shortage line and rising just above it. Typically, we look at the 50th percentile line, that's this red line in the middle here, as we can expect that the stage will continue to follow near, perhaps just above, just below, typically we can expect it to be within the 2 purple lines or the 25th and the 75th percentiles. And with that, we expect stage to continue to rise for the next couple of months as we continue through the wet season.
Okay, over the month of July, we have had a nice rise in flow into the lake. We've had about 200,000 acre feet of inflow, and we've only had 1,000 acre feet of outflow. And when you add the rain and the precip numbers, which you see we've had more rain than we've had we've had more rain than we've had evapotranspiration. We've had a net increase of freshwater to the lake of 278,000 acre feet. So that has resulted in a rise in stage of almost a foot of water. But you can see starting in August, the flows out started to decline. We haven't had a lot of water coming back out of the lake starting in August, and the water flowing in has also started to decline. What that's done is create a really nice rate of increase. We have seen a steady rise. We are just above the water shortage management man, but we are smack in the middle of the recovery envelope. And this is exactly what we were hoping for the recovery efforts that we are putting forward to get SAV to grow back into the lake. And we're hoping to continue to see that this level of rise as we move through the remainder of the wet season. You can see on the graphic on the left, we've had a little bit of rehydration in the western marsh, which is really nice for that area to be able to rehydrate and get some foraging area for the birds, as well as have some vegetation come back in. Water quality on the lake is looking fairly good. The top graph is chlorophyll A, the middle graph is dissolved in organic nitrogen, and the bottom graph is turbidity. These numbers are present up through the end of July. One of the things I'd like to draw your attention to is that the chlorophyll numbers have stayed pretty low and steady over the course of the wet season, while the nitrogen has dropped precipitously and then leveled off. And what this means is that we have seen a decline in the fertilizer, so to speak, for algal blooms, but we have not had the same increase in algal concentration on the lake. So this is putting us in a really great position for not seeing large algal blooms in the lake for the remainder of the season, because there's just not enough of the nutrients there to feed the organisms. So that's great news. And then turbidity has stayed pretty low, which is wonderful for the SAV that we're trying to reestablish. So water quality on the lake is looking pretty good. The satellite imagery, it looks overwhelming, but I want to point out the color scale over here of what these numbers mean. So when you see greens, that's actually pretty low as far as algal bloom potential. It's only once you start to get into the yellows and the reds that you're really starting to see some areas of concern. And we only see just a little bit of reds over here, and then there's a couple of yellows here and here. So as overwhelming as this satellite imagery looks, it's really actually not, the lake is not covered in a huge algal bloom. So just wanted to make sure that you're aware that what the color ramp actually means. And we were able to, fortunately, go out into the field and collect algal samples at the approximate time that satellite imagery was taken. And so we've got some really nice data that correspond exactly to the satellite imagery. It was about 10 days ago that this happened, and as you probably know, it takes a while to run lab samples. So we don't have the chlorophyll A concentration data back yet, unfortunately. All the P's that you see in the column for chlorophyll A mean pending, and hopefully we'll have those data shortly. So, what we do have, however, is the toxin concentrations as well as the algal species that are present. And so I want to draw your attention to these 3 samples right here. Those both came back having microcystin toxin above the EPA threshold, recreational threshold, and they do correspond to areas on that satellite map that are showing yellow. We also had some samples that are in the pinkish type boxes that they were above detection but below the recreational threshold, so they're in trace amounts. And then we also had 10 samples that had non-detects, meaning there was no toxin present. We are seeing a mix of algae across the lake. In some locations it is Microcystis dominant, but in others it is mixed community. So hoping to have the chlorophyll data to you shortly, but this is what the conditions were out there just last week. And the SAV surveys are just about done. We've still got a few more to go, but I do have some preliminary data for you. We have seen about 26,000 acres of SAV out on the lake, 20 of that coming from Cara and 6 coming from Vallisneria. So we're seeing a nice little bump in the acreage of SAV, and so that's really good and exciting to see. And then Drew already gave you the details on why the Team of the Month is the Team of the Month this year, but I thought I'd present it just again because I'm very proud of the staff for doing this hard work. One of the things that Drew did not point to, but I want to, is what that looks like. These folks are bent over all day in the hot sun, putting one plant at a time into the soil 40,000 times. That is not a small feat. And this is what it looks like when it's all done, when you're standing in the water. And then I really want you to understand the scale of what they did. This is the aerial photography, drone imagery of all those plantings that they put in. So this was not a small project, and I really appreciate all the staff that were involved in putting that together very quickly, actually. So kudos to them. All right, moving on to the estuaries. We've got the St. Lucie, we've got, excuse me, sorry, can't see that far. We've got about 900 CFS coming into the St. Lucie, none of that coming from the lake. And we have seen that the salinity gradient is pretty much the same as it was the previous month. It's just a little less fresh up in the two forks. And we've also got nice salinity at the US 1 bridge where we monitor for conditions for adult oysters. We're right in the middle of the optimal zone for those. We did have a small dip down into the stressed towards the end of July, but we're back into the envelope that we want to be. And with that, we have seen some nice recruitment of the oysters. The last data was collected in early July, so it's mostly reflecting conditions in June. And we saw 1.6 spat per shell at the Rio station, which is not unusual after such a large spat recruitment from the previous month. And we're now kind of in the middle of the recruitment for oysters, and we would expect to see just low and general numbers for the remainder of the wet season. But we are seeing some good oyster recruitment in the St. Lucie. Moving on to the Caloosahatchee, we've got about 2,100 CFS coming into the estuary, most of that from the C43 basin, and none of that came from the lake. And again, the salinity gradient is about the same as it was a month ago, with the upper estuary just being slightly fresher than it was previously. And again, the salinities are in the optimum range for oysters and Cape Coral, and just above the optimum range at Shell Point, and then, as always, for Sanibel, it's in the stressed range. And the oyster recruitment over there at Iona Cove, which is further upstream, and Bird Island, which is downstream, we're seeing some really nice numbers. These data were collected at the end of July, so they're mostly reflecting the July conditions. And we had 0.9 spat per shell at the Iona Cove site, and 8.1 spat per shell at the Bird Island site. So these are really good numbers that we're happy to see there.
Okay, next we will look at how water has moved around the southern portion of the system. So far this water year, just over 232,000 acre-feet has made its way through the stormwater treatment areas and into the water conservation areas across the red line. If we include the waters from the east and the west, that number increases to about 275,000 acre-feet into the water conservation areas. At the bottom of the system coming out, here at the north, we have just under 114,000 acre-feet to Everglades National Park, with about 74,000 acre-feet at the north, here at the L29, via the L29 and the S12s, and then just under 40,000 acre-feet through the detention areas into Everglades National Park from the east. And then on the lower East Coast is about 310,000 acre-feet of basin runoff to the intercoastal. Okay, next we will take a look at the stormwater treatment areas. Now that we have been seeing rainfall and associated runoff, the STAs have been processing mostly runoff and treating it prior to discharging it into the Everglades. We can see this last bar here is now predominantly blue. The blue represents the basin runoff, and the yellow represents lake water.
So Mr. Butler did my job for me, so I'm going to skip this slide. No, just kidding. So this is our basin source control program results for water year 25. So water year. So we see some really good numbers here. As Mr. Butler said, there was a 62% reduction in TP loading into the EAA basin, which is well above the threshold that we need to meet of 25%. So kudos to everyone who was involved in that program. And again, for the C139 basin, we were well above where we needed to be, or well below, depending on your perspective, of what the numbers needed. So the C139 basin is based on runoff flow rates, so that's why the threshold actually changes from year to year, so that it can accommodate changes in the climate with increased rainfall or drought conditions or what have you. But we are well below. Here was the target, and we are well below that, and here was the limit that we couldn't exceed. So we did a great job with 54,000 metric tons of phosphorus removed in the C139 basin. So that was great news there, and thank you, Mr. Butler, for the introduction to this slide. Okay, moving to the STAs. Over the water year starting in May, we've had 272,000 acre-feet coming in, with 31,000 acre-feet coming from the lake. And most of that has gone to STA 3-4, and so the EAV cells are taking the brunt of it, so they're well above target. But the rest of the cells are pretty much at or slightly above target, so we're in good shape there. And then I wanted to also point out the performance that we've gotten year to date. STA 1 East and 1 West have outflow concentrations of 19, and STA 3-4 has an outflow concentration of 11. So those are fantastic numbers that we really like to see. STA 2 is just a little bit higher than that at 22, and STA 5-6 is at 48. I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that the inflow concentrations are 212. So the 5-6 is actually, from a percentage basis, performing very, very well. It's just that the inflow concentrations are so high, so the outflow concentrations are also high, but a lot lower than they otherwise would be. So the STAs are doing well. And with that, I am excited to bring you some science. So my STA scientists are looking at SAV in the stormwater treatment area, specifically in 2A, cell 3. SAV is a critical component of STA performance. It's in the back end of the flowway, and it provides the final polishing for removing that last little bit of phosphorus before it goes out. And what they noticed in cell 3 was that we were starting to see a loss of SAV in that cell. And so they went to Drew and asked for permission to do a drawdown. And the reason for that is they had learned some lessons during the restoration strategy science plan that indicated that SAV will regerminate after they have experienced drought conditions, so to speak. So what the drawdown does is it consolidates the soil, and it spurs the germination of the SAV. So we got permission to do a drawdown. We started in February, and so the pictures you can see here of April are what that drawdown looks like. We're down at the surface of the water. There's not much SAV here at all. And then they slowly began to raise the water back up in May, coming to target in June. And then you can see here for July in the mid and outflow cell, we've got SAV, and a lot of it and in dense conditions. So performance in that cell is about to be really, really good. And so I'm excited that our scientists were able to use the lessons learned from restoration strategies in order to implement a plan that will help improve performance in our STAs. And with that, I have a video of what that looks like on the ground. So this is the early part of the hydration. You can see a little bit of sprigs of SAV under the water. And as we move forward, you'll see that that starts to increase in concentration. There you can really see some coming in. It's starting to actually be above the water line, peaking up. So that's really good. We're getting really nice concentration coming in. And then this is the final water depth. So you can see how lush and depth it is in there, and it looks really good and healthy. So it was a very successful project, and I'm really glad that my scientists were able to demonstrate the science that we have learned with restoration strategies.
Okay, now we'll take a closer look at the conservation areas. Water Conservation Area 1 has been kind of bumping along right at its regulation, just below its regulation schedule. Currently, pretty much right at regulation schedule. There have been some inflows from Stormwater Treatment Area 1 East and 1 West, as well as direct rainfall, and the S10s have remained closed. Water Conservation Area 2A stage is currently about 3/4 of a foot above regulation schedule and flat, and the regulation schedule is rising. With Broward rainfall being below average, we do continue to do water supply releases to the east, and the S11s remain closed. In Water Conservation Area 3A, the three gauge average is below Zone A. It's currently in Zone B. The green line is the line that we follow for considering water supply deliveries. When the stage is below the floor, which is this line right here, about, I think it's at 8 feet in GVD. When the green line is below that floor, we do need to have water in the bank before we can deliver water out for water supply deliveries to the south. The good news is that, as we can see here, the green line has come up a little bit since we last met, and also direct rain has continued to help provide relief to the lower East Coast area as well as the South Dade conveyance system. And with this, the only outflow has been for environmental, including the Tamiami Trail flow formula deliveries.
Okay, water in the Everglades. We are starting to see some rehydration of that area. So excited to see that. And starting at the top of the system, we still have some dry areas in Water Conservation Area 1, although compared to last month, it is much better. We've actually got a lot of water in Conservation Area 2A in the central and south regions. It's close to the 90th percentile of its depth. And the remaining areas are getting wetter, which is great, but there are still some areas that are dry, especially south of Tamiami Trail. We are still below ground for water depth over there. And then for Shark River, this is also still fairly dry conditions, although conditions are improving and hydrologic connectivity is improving as well. So these are the water change rates for the Everglades as well as the actual depths. I want to draw your attention to this one here for August 4th week, and you're seeing a lot of red. And what's happening here is we are actually transitioning our performance metric from focusing on wading bird prey concentration and recession rates to the ecology of the Everglades and prey production and apple snails and ascension rates. So at that time, we were still fairly dry, and so you see a lot of recession rates during that week, which is why we've got a lot of red, because we were looking for ascension rates instead. But that has since turned around in the past week. You're now seeing mostly greens and yellows for our current reporting period, which is good news. The only one that is red is for Water Conservation Area 2B at the 99 gauge, and it's red because the ascension rate is too high. So we are definitely seeing some rehydration of these areas. And you can see that reflected in the water depths for these areas. They're all above ground, with the lowest level being at about 0.4 feet for Water Conservation Area 1 at the 1.9 gauge. However, we are still kind of dry, especially Water Conservation Area 2A in the northern section. And as a result, we saw a wildfire up in the right below the Hillsborough Canal. And you can see what the ramifications of that look like on the ground here. This is the burn area. This is the Hillsborough Canal here. This is the scale of that burn area. And it has since been contained and is out. But I do want to draw your attention to the fact that we are still at a pretty high risk for wildfires in the area. Now that we're getting all the afternoon thunderstorms with associated lightning, we're starting to see increased risk with wildfires throughout the Everglades, and especially with the continued dry conditions in some of the areas. And moving down to Florida Bay, we are seeing increased stages in Taylor Slough. However, we are still fairly high salinities throughout the eastern, central, and western regions. We are below the hypersalinity threshold in the eastern region, but up at the top of the interquartile range for this time of year. And we are at the hypersalinity range in the central and western regions, and above the historic and recent history averages for this time of year. And lastly, I want to bring to your attention that these high salinities are actually pushing us towards an exceedance for the MFL. We are now 2 days away from an exceedance of having a salinity of over 30 for 30 days. We've got 2 more days to go, and then we'll be in an exceedance. But we haven't had an exceedance in quite a while, so it is we're not going to get into violation territory. But we do need rain in Florida Bay desperately if anyone has a line to the rain gods. And with that, that's all I have.
Okay, we'll look ahead and we'll use the Climate Prediction Center precipitation outlook for South Florida. For the month of August, we're looking at equal chances of above normal, below normal, or normal rainfall. Then we're projected to move into a little wetter period as we get into the peak of the hurricane season and leaning above normal chances. And then as we get into the 3-month period, October through December, we're back towards equal chances of above, below, or normal rainfall. As we get into the drier season, the long-range forecast we look at is the January to March timeframe, and currently the prediction is leaning below normal rainfall. And looking a little shorter term, we'll look at the 7-day QPF. We have pretty dry conditions forecasted over the next couple of days. Then we have a shift in the moisture pattern, and we're expecting little wetter conditions moving into the area over the weekend and into early next week. Week 1 is expected to end up below normal with that, and week 2 is also currently expected to be below normal. I don't have a slide, but I'm sure everybody's aware of Tropical Storm Erin that is out there and making its way across the Atlantic. Erin is expected to curve northward before it reaches the Florida coast. So we will keep an eye on it and for any potential impacts, but at this time it looks like it's going to curve north before reaching us. And that's our last slide. So Mr. Vice Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much. The presentations were great. We'll move on to staff reports, and I'd like to call on the monthly financial report from Candida Heater. Candy?
Good morning. So the monthly financial report has been posted on our web. It's through the month of June, and that's where you can find all of our financial budget and financial reports. So getting to the report. So far, we've collected $1 billion in revenue. And we've expended $891 million. Comparing June of 2025 to last June of 2024, we've collected $138 million more, or 15% more in revenues, and expended $172 million, or 24% more. And we see that in the restoration and the operations groups. During the month of June, we collected $150 million and spent $110. So that means between May and June, staff have sent invoices as well as your ad valorem revenues that yield $150 million. 90% of the $110 million, which is $100 million, was expended on restoration and O&M. And the remaining amounts, which are the $10 million, which range from 2 to 4%, was on science and monitoring, regulation, management, administration, and outreach. The $1 billion in revenue collections is mainly comprised of $642 million from state appropriations, mostly Everglades restoration, reimbursements from DEP. On average, we're spending anywhere from 40 to 65 million. I'll give you a little update now that this month we're sending up over $101 million in reimbursement requests. And that is, related to our operational agreement that we received this year. We finalized that, and I want to give kudos to staff as well as to DEP staff under Mr. Ed Smith's team, Jennifer Adams, Dana Jones, and Scott Maurer, we all worked very hard, and we couldn't do it without them and their support. So I just want to give them a shout out. We've expended and obligated 66% of our budget thus far, and we're spending on average right now $99 million a month. Last June, we were on average spending about $79 million a month, so we're about $20 million higher. That does kind of close out the monthly financial portion of my update to you all. But I do want to give you an update that Tim and myself and the finance team met this week with our external auditors, CBIZ, to start early and to get back on track to start working towards our 2025 audit, external audit, to hopefully be able to bring that in for a landing around the April timeframe versus, June timeframe. So we're working very hard with them. This will be their second year with us. Last year, the 24 audit was the first year, and we did start those discussions early to try to get things organized. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Heater. We'll move on to general public comment. Molly, is there any general public comment?
We have no public comment cards and no hands raised on Zoom, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Okay, we're going to move to board comment. If anybody has anything else to say, Mr. Bergeron?
I always have something to say, but
I tried to bait you into it not.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, that we've had quite a dry season, and it's important to understand that there's been concerns about water supply. But as far as the environment, I think the environment has got a tremendous benefit. Long as the peat and the muck isn't so dry it would burn, fires are very good and healthy for the environment. And I think that the environment has benefited to get a dry season where the ground will crack and aerate, and the silt that forms underwater will oxidize and dissipate. And so I think we're getting huge benefits in the Kissimmee River area, the lake, the Central Everglades, and even the Big Cypress. So you got to have a dry season, you got to have a wet season to have a healthy wetland. And so I think we've got some tremendous benefits. It's been a great meeting. It's an honor to sit with all of you, especially you, Mr. Chairman. And long live the Everglades. And
God bless.
And God bless America. And the American dream is still alive.
There you go. Mr. Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm doing it now rather than after technical reports. You kind of glossed over comment on technical reports. But that's okay.
It's not on the agenda, my friend.
Perfect, understood. Is that 26,000 acres of SAV that is growing right now in Lako?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's good.
Yes, it
That's
is.
good. That's a sign recovery success. Looks like lake's been moderate. Midnick anytime.
100%.
Yes, enjoyed listening to you. And I think, you didn't quite say it, but the posture right now is certainly in some conservation type modes, correct? I mean, it's...
Yes, absolutely. We're in a little bit of an odd period this wet season because we're constantly kind of flip-flopping between doing what we need to do for flood control, flood protection, but very quickly coming back to water conservation so that we can hold as much water in the system as we can during these drier times, and particularly in the drier areas, to make sure that we don't lose water that we're going to need shortly thereafter.
Okay. All right, good deal. Thank you. Finally, my final comment. Today is Rebecca Elliott's last day with FDACS. Being the representative attend the meetings, Rebecca, we thank you, wish you the best of luck, and yeah, good luck. But thank you for keeping us informed, Rebecca. That is it.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley. Anything? Chairman Goss?
Yeah, good morning. I'd like to, I just want to say how encouraged I was by Drew's report. It's amazing to see the progress we're making. I'd like to thank the president and his staff and the governor and his staff, and associate myself with Colonel Roman's comments earlier about the amazing progress we're making and how we've really are keeping our foot on the gas. I just want to thank everyone for that. And I also want to thank Vice Chairman Wagner for running such an incredibly fast meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez? Colonel Roman?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I'd like to commend Drew and the entire district team and say thank you. The pace was already moving briskly along with Everglades restoration and the other missions of the district. And with this newly signed agreement with the Department of the Army, we added more things to that momentum. And the staff has just picked up the pace and leaned forward and taken the challenge. And that doesn't happen unless you're a well-oiled organization that's ready to move forward and get the job done. So I want to commend and thank everyone in the district and for your hard work and dedications to this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Roman. Mr. Spotswood?
Nothing for me, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you.
Great meeting. Nothing from me. I look forward to seeing you all back here next month on Thursday, September 11th, for a monthly board meeting, audit and finance committee meeting, and public hearing on fiscal year 2025-2026, tentative ad valorem millage rates, non-ad valorem tax rolls, and tentative budget. This meeting is adjourned.